い日が心の端に灯る
That's weird. Shy and Dashi should have been here by now.
Pinkie Pie scratched her head and leaned on the horse statue. I mean, I can see Rainbow being late, but Fluttershy? Sunset questioned. Twilight smiled a bit. Well, technically, she's not late until after 8 o'clock, she said as she pushed her glasses up. Applejack frowned as she waited for both Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash to arrive. It was the first time in a long time since Rainbow had been late to school. She wondered if it had anything to do with the argument they had the day before. After Rainbow stormed out of the barn, Applejack didn't see her for the rest of the day. She wouldn't answer her calls or texts. On top of that, she had barely seen her older brother since then as well. It seemed he was either avoiding her or the entire family. To be honest, even though she was angry, she was worried for the two of them. Suddenly, Applejack saw both of her missing friends heading towards them. Rainbow was in the exact same hoodie she wore the day before. Her prismatic hair covered her face more than usual, and she walked slowly, something she never think of doing. Fluttershy had her arm linked around Rainbow's and tried to talk to her, but it didn't look like Rainbow was answering much. When the girls finally reached the others, Applejack could see Rainbow's face better. Were her eyes red?
Hey, sorry we're late.
Fluttershy sighed and smiled slightly.
It's okay.
Piggy half yelled and grabbed her two friends and pulled them into a tight hug.
Is everyone having a good morning? May I ask why you two took longer than usual?
Rarity asked, pulling the attention away from Piggy's question.
Yes. Class starts in 10 whole minutes. You both should have been here ages ago. Now you don't have time to go get organized.
Twilight scoffed and rolled her eyes.
Fluttershy, you know Rainbow drags herself to school sometimes. You should have known better than to let her slow you down.
Twilight? Fluttershy started.
Seriously, what was Rainbow doing? Hitting the snooze button 1,000 times? I'm worried about the amount of time she's been tardy.
Rainbow would have usually shot back at Twilight's rant by now, but instead, she bit the bottom of her lip and placed her hand in her pocket. She stared blankly at the ground. This act did not go unnoticed, as Sunset soon spoke up.
Dash? Is everything alright?
Sunset asked, stepping closer towards her friend.
Yep. Everything's cool,
Rainbow replied with little emotion. Sunset frowned at her friend's obvious lie, and gave a small smirk as she had gotten an idea.
Don't lie to me. You know what I can do,
she said, waving her hand in reference to her powers.
Everyone was shocked at Rainbow's reaction. She shot her head up
immediately and glared at Sunset. "Don't you dare," she threatened, as everyone stared at her in shock. Rainbow's angry glare disappeared and was replaced with one of frustration. The young athlete closed her eyes and groaned. "Sorry," she mumbled before walking away into the school building. The girls stood in silence, confusion as they wondered what had gotten into Rainbow.
So, I guess she isn't having a good morning,
Pinky stated simply, to which every girl standing rolled their eyes. It was hard for Applejack to concentrate on her English class. Even though Rainbow had arrived to school early, she was still late to first period. The rainbow-haired girl walked in with a frown on her face, as she seemed to be taking her time. When she used to arrive late, almost every morning, she had used to rush in with a large smirk on her face as Mr. Cranky scolded and lectured her about time management. Rainbow would roll her eyes and promise that she would be on time for the next class, which everyone knew that was one promise she'd never keep. However, today, when Rainbow walked into the class, she looked as if she had lost all of her energy. Her eyes were dull, and a tired frown which etched across her face. Mr. Cranky looked excited to give her a lecture for the first time in a very long time. He opened his mouth immediately and gave a stern look at her. However, after one glance, his stern gaze softened, and the words seemed to die in an instant. "I'm sorry I'm late. Won't happen again," Rainbow mumbled before slightly sulking to her seat beside Applejack. "Just try to be a little quicker next time," Cranky said with a low volume, before continuing what he was saying. Applejack watched Rainbow as she took notes on the lesson. Their eyes met a few times before Rainbow quickly went back to looking down at her paper. Her head was propped up by the palm of her hand, and her hair hung loose over her eyes. She looked bored, and as the class ended, she was one of the first ones to head out over the door. However, Mr. Cranky stopped her. "Is everything alright, Rainbow Dash?" he asked. Applejack watched as Rainbow put on one of the most fakest smiles she'd ever seen. "Yep, everything's cool. I just didn't really sleep much last night," the rainbow-haired girl forced. As the teacher nodded, Rainbow hurried out of the classroom. Applejack followed her in an attempt to try to talk to her. However, she was stopped by her brown-haired senior. As soon as she looked into his blue eyes, she knew exactly who she was stopped by. His name was Caramel, and he was a close friend of Big Mac's. "Hey, AJ, what's up with the brother? He's been quiet today," he asked. "Caramel? He's always quiet, you know that," Applejack deadpanned. "No, Jack. He's been quieter than usual. He's not even saying his yups and nopes," Caramel mocked. Applejack rolled her eyes. "Look, maybe he's just tired," she shrugged. "Jack, the man goes to bed at 8 o'clock and he's 18. Has he ever been tired to you? Okay, fine. He might just be in a bad mood. I kind of got into an argument with his girlfriend, and she's been a little off today too. I'm sure the both of them will be feeling better by the end of the day, especially when they get to see each other, Applejack explained. Wait, you and Rainbow had a fight? Yes, Caramel, Applejack sighed, getting annoyed. About? None of your business. Don't you have clouds to get to? Yeah, I do. Thanks, AJ. I think I know what's wrong now, he said before rushing down the hall. By lunch, Applejack would have thought that Rainbow would have perked up a bit. Everyone else gathered up at the table, as she did as well. Fluttershy sat next to Rainbow as she ate in silence. The girls all exchanged worried glances. Before, Applejack wasn't really concerned, as she was still angry at her friend, and thought that Rainbow was still angry as well. But now, as she watched Rainbow, she was too quiet. There didn't seem to be any tension between the two, and she hadn't glared or made any snarky comments towards Applejack either. Applejack figured out that Rainbow wasn't angry. She was upset. The entire table remained silent and didn't say anything to Rainbow. However, the last straw was when Rainbow began to tear up as she looked at her food. Pinkie saw this and jumped up to rush to her friend, but Rarity stopped her from getting across the table. Pinkie glared at Rarity before sitting back down.
What is your problem?
Pinkie hissed quietly, so Rainbow couldn't hear.
If you go over and comfort her too much, then she'll start crying more,
Rarity hissed back.
Maybe that's what she needs. Letting things out makes me feel better. It's not healthy to bottle everything in, and she's barely holding it together as is,
Twilight whispered, and joining the conversation.
I understand, but let's approach this slowly, okay?
Rarity suggested, and the others nodded. Rarity cleared her throat and looked at Rainbow Dash.
Rainbow, dear. How has your day been?
She asked casually. Rainbow lifted her head up to look at Rarity, and the tears in her eyes seemed to be gone.
Okay, I guess,
she answered, and looked back down at her lunch.
Well, that's good. Fluttershy, how about you? Mine has been fine as well.
Fluttershy smiled. Sunset began to grow impatient with Rarity's tragedy. Fluttershy, do you know anything about this? She asked, looking at Rainbow.
Oh, no,
she said out loud, before nodding her head yes in secret. Are you sure you can't say anything?
No, I'm sorry,
she frowned. Twilight looked at Rainbow Dash from across the table and took her hand.
Rainbow, whatever is bothering you, you can tell us. We are your friends, and we care for you. Holding all this in is not okay. You can trust us.
Twilight gave a small smile, and the rest of her friends did as well. Rainbow looked at her friends' smiling faces, and her lip quivered a bit.
Guys, I'm okay. You're worrying over nothing.
She smiled. The girls all sat back in disappointment. Applejack began to get angry.
Hardy, we're trying to help you. Just tell us, would ya?
She sneered, but was shocked as Fluttershy glared at her.
Applejack, that's enough,
she hissed.
Fluttershy, you don't understand. You didn't see her yesterday. She was...
Actually, I did see her yesterday, Applejack. You really need to tone it down.
Fine, whatever. If she don't want our help, it's fine. She'll have to deal with this on her own.
She crossed her arms, not realizing that her anger was getting the best of her once again. Fluttershy watched as Rainbow began to tear up again.
Applejack, what has gone into you lately?
Fluttershy scolded.
She doesn't have to.
No, Shy, it's fine. Rainbow interrupted her through her tears.
If she wants to know so bad, I'll tell her.
Rainbow looked at Applejack straight in the eye and put her fork down.
Your dumb brother broke up with me because he didn't want to come between us. He said that he knew how much our friendship meant to me and didn't want to hurt me.
She spilled, her tears streaming down her cheeks now. Rarity gasped in surprise, while the others gaped. Applejack stared at Rainbow, unable to say anything. That wasn't what she wanted to happen.
What's wrong, AJ? I thought you'd be happy. You got what you wanted.
Rainbow sobbed once before leaving the table. All of the girls at the table were silent.
What just happened?
Pinky said flatly.
Oh, the poor dear.
Rarity held her heart.
Fluttershy, what happened?
Sunset asked. Fluttershy took a deep breath and sighed.
She came to my house last night crying her eyes out. She could barely talk to me. It was the worst I've ever seen from her. After a while, she managed to get out that she and Mac broke up. She told me the entire thing in the morning, though,
she said as she gave a stern look at Applejack.
Not only did she tell me about what happened yesterday, but while she was crying, she kept mumbling something about not being loyal to me, and that she was sorry.
Fluttershy glared at Applejack.
What did you say to her?
She asked Applejack.
Applejack bit the bottom of her lip and held her head in shame. She knew she messed up. Well, lately, Rainbow and my brother have been hanging out a little too much. My brother had been skipping out on his chores after school to hang out with her, and that left me to do his chores on top of mine. We all know that Rainbow's been skipping out on Rainboom's practices too, she explained. Well, I don't know about Big Macintosh, and I'll admit that Rainbow had been skipping some practices to hang out with Mac. But most of the practices she had skipped was because her grandmother has been sick lately, and she had went to go and visit her.
Fluttershy stopped, making Applejack even more embarrassed. She had assumed Rainbow was blowing off for Mac, when in reality, she was tending her family.
I've noticed that Rainbow had been hanging out with Big Macintosh a lot as well. But I remembered that he is her first love, and that she needs to learn how to manage time. I've been meaning to talk to her about that, Rarity added. Well, anyway, whenever she come to hang out with me, she'd end up leaving me for my brother. He'd come over, and then all of a sudden, the two can't leave each other alone. I guess yesterday was the last straw, Applejack said. What did you do? Twilight asked, curious. I started yelling at her about it all, and when she yelled back, I let her pick between her friends or Mac. I told her she wasn't being loyal to us. Applejack frowned, realizing how bad she must have sounded yesterday. I guess after she left, Mac broke up with her because he thought that if they stayed together, he put our friendship in danger. I can see what he was doing, but I don't think breaking up was the answer, Sunset began. I agree. I think that they just needed to learn how to manage their time together. Put priorities first and make some sort of schedule, Rarity agreed. I just want to figure out how to help Dashi. Dashi has never been this upset, and I don't like it. Pinky frowned. Applejack felt guilty and looked in the direction Rainbow ran away in. Maybe if she'd try to talk things out with her, she'd understand why she had said what she said. I'll go talk to her, Applejack said as she stood up. No, Fluttershy said quickly and stared at Applejack. I mean, you really shouldn't right now. I think you said enough. With that, Fluttershy stormed away, looking for Rainbow Dash. Applejack sat back down, her face red with embarrassment. It was the first time she had seen Fluttershy angry at her, and she wasn't fond of it. It was the first time she had seen Rainbow cry in years. And it was all because of her. Her brother wasn't himself, because of what she had said. She didn't understand why what she did was so bad. All she had said was that Rainbow needed to separate herself from Mac a little. Are y'all mad at me too? She looked down. The remaining girls at the table looked at Applejack. Well, based on what I've heard, you could have handled things differently, Rarity started. I don't blame you for being upset. I'd be mad if I was left with extra work if my brother ran away. For some girl too, Sunset agreed. I agree with Sunset and Rarity. We all see why you were mad, and we agree with what you are saying. But making Rainbow question her loyalty? Rainbow may seem tough, but after observing her, she tends to hide her feelings. Under that tough shell is a vulnerable girl with a hard past. She's still insecure about her abilities and doesn't reveal that because she wants to be seen as someone that we could always go to. She deals with her own struggles. She deals with her struggles on her own. But there are only so much she can take before she cracks. Right now, she's worried about you, Applejack. Us girls. Her failed relationship. And if she's worth her element. That's why Fluttershy is so upset with you, explained Twilight. What she said, Pinky smiled. But I'm not mad at you, Jackie. Just a teensy-weensy bit sad. Thanks, girls. Applejack slightly smiled. What should I do? That's usually
lets these types of things go by the end of the day.
Well, breakups are hard, Applejack. For our first relationship, it lasted pretty long, and I don't think it would have ended anytime soon if this didn't all happen. It's obvious that neither of the two wanted it, so maybe you shouldn't deal with this now. At least give Rainbow a few hours. It still stings and hurts very much,
Rarity suggested.
I mean, of course she's going to be upset. I know it seems like Rainbow is angry with you, but from the way she shouted a few minutes ago, it looked like she was just taking her frustrations out on you. I'm sure she's upset with you, but not as upset as she is about the whole breakup. Like Rarity said, give her a few to cool down, Sunset added. I think that the perfect time to talk with her is after soccer practice today. It's something she enjoys, and it should lift her spirits up while playing, smiled Twilight. That would give you time to talk to your brother. Then you could go find Dashi, Pinkie hopped. All of the girls' input really helped Applejack feel a lot better. Now, she had figured out a way to make things right. After school, she would head home and speak with Big Macintosh while they worked on their chores. By that time, Rainbow should be done with soccer practice, and Applejack could meet her before she left. It was perfect. I think I know what I'm gonna do. Thanks again, girls. Applejack smiled as the bell rang. Applejack stood in the barn, waiting for her brother to arrive. She hadn't seen any sign of Rainbow since lunch. But after speaking with her brother, Applejack was confident that she'd make things right again. She smiled as the door opened, revealing a familiar-looking freckled face. Mac! Applejack immediately called as her brother walked in. Nope, Mac replied, quietly and coldly, causing Applejack to step back. Look, she started. I know I screwed up yesterday, and I heard about the breakup. And I wanted to talk about what I said. Big Macintosh looked into Applejack's pleading green eyes. His mouth formed a flat line as he sat down on a bale of hay. Go on ahead, he said. I shouldn't have yelled at y'all. I just was tired of Apple Bloom and I having to do your chores as you and Dash had fun. It's alright for y'all to hang out sometimes, but you did it for an entire week straight. And when you came when Dash was over, she'd always start hanging with you instead of me. Applejack started. I shouldn't have yelled at Dash either. Telling her to choose was too silly and stupid. I wasn't myself yesterday. I was just so angry. Applejack looked down in shame, waiting for her brother's reply. She looked up, slightly angry, when she heard a small laugh. What's so funny? She asked, irritated. Nothing. You just reminded me of something, that's all. Big Mac replied with a bitter smile. What? Remember that story that we heard about Ma and Pa? Of course I do, Mac. This whole thing
Sounds like a situation with grandpa.
What are you talking about married? You can't be married.
A middle-aged woman yelled at her red-haired son. An older male strode up to his daughter, who stood in front of the red-haired man. Finally, something we can agree on, he said, turning angrily at his daughter. Pear butter, enough of this nonsense. We're moving, and you gotta stick with your family, the man said, with a gray streak in his hair. Pear butter, a woman with curly orange hair, looked around at the situation she was in. She had her now husband, Bright Mac, had just gotten married in her secret place, right in between of where their fields stood. The trees were decorated with lights and banners of pears and apples, hung from its branches. Bright Mac's mother, Mrs. Smith, stood angrily in front of the wedding ark, next to the pink-haired mayor, who stood in shock. Her best friend, a blue woman named Chiffin Swirl, stared at her, sad. Pear Butter looked at her husband's green eyes before turning to look back at her father. But, she said with an accent, the apples are my family now too. Bright Mac tore from his mother's grip to run to his wife and held her hand tight, smiling at her. Mrs. Smith looked at the couple in surprise and watched as her enemy doubled over in shock. You can't be serious, he sneered, walking up to the couple with a frown. Are you choosing to be an apple over being a pear? He stomped, expecting for his young daughter to realize her mistake. Pear Butter's blue eyes immediately filled with tears as she looked at Bright Mac in distress. She looked at her father, hoping that he wasn't being serious. Are you making me choose? She whimpered, looking into her father's disapproving brown eyes. The man stood, shocked that his daughter didn't answer the way he wanted. He then looked stern before speaking. Yes, he said firmly, his voice deep and mean. I am. Pear Butter's tears began to flow down her cheeks. She sniffled as she looked at her father. Then yeah, she said shakily. I guess I am. Her husband comforted her in a tight hug as she looked at her father. The man once again shocked at his daughter's response, upset that he didn't get the answer he had wanted. He stomped again. Fine! Was all he shouted before leaving his daughter behind, never to be seen again. Pear Butter began sobbing in her husband's arms, upset at the fact that she might have just lost her father. Bright Mac held her, adjusting the brown hat on his head. He watched as his mother also came over and comforted his crying wife. Oh my gosh, she said. I sounded just like Grandpa, didn't I? Big Macintosh said nothing and kept his head down. I can't believe I did that. I'm so sorry, Mac, Applejack realized. Rainbow must have been feeling the same way her mother did years ago. Big Mac must have felt the same as her father, caught in the middle of it all. And herself, her actions and her words were almost the same as her grandfather. It's all right. You made me realize that maybe Dash and I were getting out of hand. I'm sorry too, he said, before hugging his sister. Applejack felt relieved as she fixed one part of the problem, but her eyes widened as she realized something else. Why'd you break up with her? She asked her brother, breaking the hug. Well, she was so afraid of losing you as a friend. I knew that if we stuck together, the two of you would have stopped being friends. And that would hurt her more than anything. I didn't want that, Mac explained, looking down. Well, just like you had said, Mac, this whole thing does sound like our parents' story. But after Grandpa left Ma alone, did Pa leave her just so she wouldn't lose him? She stared at her brother's green eyes. No, she answered for herself. He stuck with her and helped her through it all. In the end, they were happy. They were happy until the very last breath together. Even though Ma had just lost her father, Pa and Granny made her feel complete again. Unlike what you did. Grandma was already hurting from me yelling at her. When she needed you the most, you broke up with her. Big Macintosh's eyes widened as he realized the mistake he made. What time is it? He asked firmly. About 5. Big Macintosh quickly put everything in his hands down and started heading for the door. Where in the apple pie do you think you're going? Applejack questioned. I'm going to go and find her, he replied with confidence. Applejack smiled at her brother and followed him out of the door. I'm coming with you. I need to speak with her as well. Big Macintosh and Applejack stepped out of the red pickup truck, parked in front of Canterlot High. The two of them hurried to the soccer field in search for their athletic friend. Where is she? Applejack asked. I don't know. She should be here. She's always here, Big Macintosh replied. As the two searched, a purple-skinned, blonde-haired teen ran over to them, her purple eyes filled with worry. Applejack! She shouted, wearing the Wonder Colts team jersey. Cloud Kicker! Glad you're here. Do you know where I can find Dash? Applejack asked the worried soccer player. Cloud Kicker bit her lip, and her eyes widened. That's what I was gonna ask you. She didn't come to practice today, and we're all worried. Rainbow Dash hasn't skipped a practice since she broke her arm in sophomore year, she exclaimed. She didn't come at all? Big Macintosh asked, now becoming worried himself. No, not at all. I kept trying to call her, but she just texted me to take over for today. Is she okay? Mac and I are gonna go find out, Applejack reassured her. Let's go and see if she's home. The siblings got into the truck and drove to Rainbow Dash's house. They slowly walked up the stairs and waited after Big Macintosh knocked. The pair watched as the door opened, revealing a woman with short hair and freckles. Her pink eyes narrowed immediately at the sight of Big Macintosh. Miss Dash? Big Macintosh started. I don't know what you did to her, but I don't think I should let you in right now. Rainbow's mother said angrily and began closing the door. Wait, ma'am. Applejack stopped the door from closing with her arm. This is all my fault. You just came here to make things right. The woman rolled her eyes, but gave in, opening the door again. Fine, she said. But
if I find out that you hurt her one more time? I don't want to see you back here again, she said, looking right into Big Macintosh's eyes. Of course, ma'am, Big Macintosh gulped and walked in.